The most groundbreaking movie review show ever returns with some big changes.
Oh wait, sorry, groundbreaking is even a stretch for me. More importantly, what's changed? Sorry?
You're not afraid to tear into Hollywood for bad movies.
Okay, that's what we always did, I thought, but also that's what reviews are meant to be. So again, what has changed?
The Any Good logo has totally changed.
Has it? No one's going to notice that. Again, what's changed? Hello?
I forgot my lines.
Oh, fucking hell. Okay, you're not on camera. You can just read what it says.
I've lost my place. I can ad-lib.
Oh my god, no, just set me up for the intro, okay? Do that, that's pretty easy, right?
In solidarity with the writer's strike, we've got an intro without writers, thanks to AI.
No!
Hold on to your Infinity Stones, folks, because Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is back and it's more predictable than Groot saying, I am Groot.
They're against AI, Hello? Oh, I don't know what that was or who that was, but anyway. Sorry about that. Here's the actual intro.
I want you all to know that I am grateful to fight beside my friends.
Incinerate them.
Before he tries to save the DC cinematic universe, he's here to try and save the Marvel cinematic universe with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. But is it any good, or would it be better off left in the bin with James Gunn's old tweets?
I'm hearing a lot of people say that Guardians 3 is the best Marvel movie since Endgame. Which it is. That's pretty faint praise though, if we're honest. But is Guardians a good movie on its own merits? Yes. Marvel has often been hit with the whole formulaic criticism, and while I don't think that was always the case, the massive influx of content thanks to Disney Plus shows now, and the lukewarm reception to recent films and new characters, meant that it felt like things were getting more mediocre than ever. Like, those YouTube clickbait thumbnails might actually have a point. Is the MCU dead? Is superhero fatigue real? It started to feel like, hey, they might actually be right now. So we really need something to shake things up a bit and also be pretty good and give a kind of a win in the Marvel column, because it feels like they haven't had a guaranteed one for a while. And it feels like they certainly got that here, even though it also makes you wonder about the MCU as a whole. James Gunn has always had the luxury of kind of just doing his own thing, separate from the rest of the universe, because the Guardians were just kind of up there in space.
Space!
So because of that, he's got a lot of creative freedom that, if we're honest, not a lot of directors at Marvel have often had. And because of that, we undoubtedly get a James Gunn film, as we have in the past, in that it's absurd and funny, has a certain darkness to it, and isn't afraid to get gooey. I mean that both in terms of emotion and, you know, just actual liquids. James Gunn is not afraid of a little bit of splatter. And it definitely feels like an end to this trilogy and to the team, although maybe a bit less than you expect. And let's be honest, we all expected a pretty big end, mainly because all the actors were like, I'm not coming back after this one. I'm not going to say too much about that cast, because let's be honest, they're fantastic as they always have been. They slip into these roles at this point with ease. I mean, they've been doing them for 10 years now, really. So, of course, this is like second nature to them. But I did think it was good. They got to show a bit more range this time around. They got to do a lot more emotional scenes. Not that there wasn't emotion in the previous films, but I feel like this one had a much more emotional, beating heart throughout. I do want to give a special mention to Zoe Saldana, who gets to play Gamora a little bit different because, you know, of all that timey-wimey stuff that happened before. I'm not going to go into it or explain it because, you know, like Gamora, I also don't really remember. Of course, it's not just the OG cast we're dealing with, though. There are some new members with the Guardians. So we have Cosmo the Space Dog, who was first introduced in the Christmas special. I'm going to say that because otherwise people are going to be saying, like, first introduced elsewhere. But yes, I love Cosmo. I really do. I love that character. And, God, I wanted more of her. She's such a good dog. But we didn't get much. We kind of only got bits, and she does have a story with Kraglin that was quite entertaining, and what we got was really good. But I would have loved more. But it's also hard. You know, we're now in the finale of this trilogy, and we have to focus on this story and close the story with the OG cast members, making it kind of hard to bring new people into the fold. I don't think anyone suffered more from that than Adam Warlock, who feels like he's just here, really, to follow up on the nagging obligation that we got left with at the post-credit scene of Volume 2. He's okay. He kind of is there to kick the plot into motion and then just shows up when they need an action beat or they need to get out of a jam and need some convenient attack from Adam Warlock. He was alright. Didn't love him. Maybe we'll see more of him in the future and I'll like him a bit more, but I don't know, it just wasn't enough of him for me to really like him all that much. But it was okay. I just feel like it was a movie that was so stuffed that he didn't really get his time to shine. One new character that absolutely worked was our villain, the High Evolutionary, who is this sort of sadistic nutcase with a god complex. And you got to tip your hat to Chuck Woody Woogie, who really finds the balance between someone who is a very powerful, manipulative, and meddling god, and someone who's also just an irrational imperfectionist who's kind of petty and sad in some ways. I think he did an excellent job with his performance. And his relationship with Rocket is really what drives the movie, because make no mistake about it, this is Rocket's movie. The movie dives headfirst into Rocket's origin and backstory. And while I don't know if that was absolutely necessary, I feel like we kind of knew enough about Rocket's backstory already through all the breadcrumbs they left us. And it is pretty much what you expect it to be. While watching it, it was so well executed and upsetting and emotional that didn't really bother me. But as you can imagine, it might bother some people because it's very heavy on the animal abuse, and even though these are CGI animals, it's quite upsetting and distressing. Yeah, this is being discussed already as one of the Marvel movies you should maybe leave the kids at home for. And, you know, Guardians has always kind of teetered on that edge in general. It's got some more brash language. And I mean, geez, I can't believe they ever got that blacklight joke into the first film.
If I had a blacklight, the place would look like a Jackson Pollock painting.
You got issues, Quill.
And this is probably the darkest in the trilogy, and it certainly has moments. It also has the Marvel's first F-bomb. So yeah, maybe it's something that is a little bit darker and edgier, and maybe one you should leave the kids at home for. I do think at times it kind of has a bit of a tonal whiplash to it. Like, we're like, oh, this is a fun space adventure. Animal torture. Ow. But, you know, never to a worrying degree. It was more of a kind of a case of, well, oh, that was weird. At least I feel slightly better now that we're not watching animals get tortured. And of course, as you can imagine, by the end, things kind of balance out. I also can't imagine, we're focusing on Rocket's origin, and we never got an origin story of why he talks like a Brooklyn cab driver. Hey, I got 12% of a plan over here. Hey, yo, tree, I'm walking here. Although when we're talking Guardians of the Galaxy films, people are more focused on the other sounds. The music. Let's be honest, the soundtrack to these are a big deal. They kind of ingrain themselves in pop culture and probably endeared the Guardian to the public as much, if not more, than anything else in these movies. And this time around, we're not confined to a decade because we've got a Zune. Way, we've got a Zune, said nobody ever. Honestly, I feel like that creative freedom made them a bit less focused. I'm not going to say the soundtrack is bad. I just don't think I'll be listening to it as much as Volume 1 or Volume 2. That being said, there's still some great song choices, some weird ones, some kind of deep cuts, and some old favourites that really did work. And as much as I don't think it's as good as the other soundtracks, when Dog Days Are Over played over the end, it really hit me emotionally, and I'm just glad they didn't have a blacklight pointed at me when they played No Sleep Till Brooklyn. Ugh.
You got issues.
Action-wise, it's probably not the strongest film, but there are a lot of creative set pieces that really were a joy to watch. And I do think there's a lot of big fight scenes coming into the end that are very satisfying. One in particular, where it's like a big team-up that is up there with the best action scenes in the whole MCU, in my opinion. It was just really, really satisfying. And, you know, if I'm honest, I'm fine with sacrificing action for story and character moments, because that's always been what made these films work. The effects are also a lot better than recent MCU films, which, you know, obviously was never a fault of the visual effects artists, but I think it's just a benefit of giving James Gunn free reign. Like, there's a lot of weird concepts and design elements in this that were just a treat to watch. And let's be honest, the best Marvel films are often the ones where you can see the director behind it, kind of emerging from the Marvel style. And that's certainly the case here, as it has been with all the Guardians films. It's undoubtedly a fun, weird James Gunn film. The question does linger, though, about what this means for the MCU. I've seen some people say, like, that's it, now we're back on track. And really, it feels like less of a case of this kind of setting the ship right, and more a case of this being the domino that didn't fall when the rest of them did. Although I guess dominoes are meant to fall, so maybe this is a bad analogy. But it really doesn't inspire confidence necessarily that the rest of the future films are going to be better, because it feels like this is kind of a goodbye to the old guard. Like the franchises that we had early on are kind of done for. And the same individuality and separation that made the Guardians films feel so special is also why it kind of feels premature to say it saved the MCU just yet, because they've always had a special place, and it feels like this special place is almost removed from the MCU while it's trying to figure out what to really do with himself to come back and reach the massive heights it once had. That doesn't matter though, as on its own merits, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is an excellent film that manages to bring its ensemble together one last time for a satisfying and emotional final outing that actually sticks the landing. And yes, there are times where it's a little bit long and it's definitely overstuffed, but it still hits where it counts. I mean, you're probably going to watch this movie and at times think, I can't believe I'm getting glassy-eyed watching a movie about a talking raccoon. But at the same point, they know to pair that trauma with a little bit of humour so that you're going to have a good time with it either way. So you'll laugh, you'll cry, you may mourn the end of the Guardians and possibly even the bygone days of the MCU. But it's just a beautiful hodgepodge of strangeness, sentimentality, and sweetness. So what can I say? It's an awesome mix.
I'm still here, Tom.